Hello everybody, welcome to the Craft Angles YouTube channel. I'm Nandini here and I'm going to teach you some two-fer cards today. Two-fer cards are fun to make and also help you in saving both your supplies and your energy. A two-fer card means you make two cards at the same time, like creating two backgrounds simultaneously. You can create two-fer cards using your stencils, your dies, your stamps, your pattern papers, and a combination of all these. Today, I'm going to teach you two techniques for two-fer cards using your stencils. So let's get started. I have 4 pieces of watercolor paper cut to 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 inches. I pulled out the birthday girl stamp set for the sentiment but ultimately did not use it. And finally, the beehive stencil, which is the star of this video. The 6 by 6 inches stencil is simple and very versatile. We are making two-fer cards today, which means that we create two backgrounds in one go. To begin, I'm attaching the stencil to the watercolor paper with some washi tape. I prefer to place the tape behind the paper to avoid any blanks in front. The two sides of watercolor paper are always different. One side has a rough texture while the other is smooth. I prefer to use the smooth side when inking as it makes ink blending easier and more even. I'm using Salty Ocean and Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide inks for my background. You can use any dye or distress inks for these techniques. Just make sure they're very water reactive. I have also tried this technique with chalk paints and it works very well. Once the inking is done, I will carefully peel the stencil away and keep it aside without wiping it down. I'm taking the second piece of watercolor paper and spraying it lightly with water. I will lay it on the work surface and then carefully place the stencil over the damp paper. I'm using a clean towel and pressing down firmly to ensure that all the ink transfers to the paper. This technique works well with darker colors as lighter colors tend to get too diluted by water. Allow the paper to air dry or use a heat gun. With this, our first two backgrounds are ready. For the next set, I will ink a piece of watercolor paper with the same two inks, Cracked Pistachio and Salty Ocean. I am making sure to lay down a thick layer of ink as the technique will not work well otherwise. Once my inking is done, I will place the stencil over the panel and attach it with a piece of washi tape from the reverse. I will then take the second piece of watercolor paper and spray it lightly with water. I am placing the damp paper over the stencil and attaching it with some washi tape. I will run this whole thing through my die cutting machine once. If you don't have a die cutting machine, simply press down firmly with your hands or use a roller. This ensures that the ink transfers to the second panel evenly. I am peeling off the tape carefully from the paper to avoid any tears. Notice that the ink has transferred through the stencil on the second watercolor paper. It has lightened the ink on the first panel. With that, a second set of backgrounds is also ready. While the panels were drying, I cut 4 panels of teal cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches and glued them to the Craft Angles A2 white card bases. For the sentiment, I decided to go with a happy birthday die with a shadow. I bought this die from the Craft Angles store, which has all the products necessary for card making. I also cut several tiny hearts using a confetti die from my stash. The ready panels were cut with a rectangular die with a stitch detail. To assemble the cards, I popped up the panels with some mount board and glued them to the card base. I'm using liquid glue to attach the sentiment to the panel. I will also add the tiny hearts around the sentiment with liquid glue. Here is an easy hack to pick up tiny embellishments. I'm using a toothpick and dipping the pointy end into the liquid glue. This makes the ends sticky and makes it easy to pick up the hearts and place them on the card. With this, our 2 sets of Two-fer cards are ready. I hope you enjoyed these techniques and will give them a try. Please let me know in the comments below which technique is your favorite. Do you know any other Two-fer techniques? Have you tried any of them? I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell before you go. Take care and see you soon. Bye.